Hi, and welcome to the Diablo podcast, brought to you by PureDiablo.com, your home for an ever-growing community, an expansive wiki, and this podcast. I'm your host, Anth, and today I am joined by Neinball
Oh, hi.
and long-time guest, returning after a little bit of a hiatus. Uh, we've got Katniss, we've got Leviathan, we've got Stephen Stewart. Uh, how are you?
Ooh, it feels good to be back in the saddle of podcasting and all that again. Thank
I
you,
have
first of all.
I've never seen this man before in my life.
Who are you and why are you on my doorstep? No, first of all, thank you for having me here on the show. I've been watching avidly for the last few things, as now we're starting to really roll into Diablo, the year of Diablo. All the Diablo things are occurring. Yeah, it's we were trying to look back at what my first episode was of like the Diablo podcast when that was the name back in the day. And 2013, I remember I literally still remember my first day playing D3 and going to the forums and like trying to see what the other barbs were up to as I was getting annihilated in Inferno, and like it's all so clear even though it's so many years ago now. And I just love talking. That was my first brush with like really getting into the community and all that, and then getting to have a voice on the podcast, and then spinning one off with Neinball and whatnot. So it's been a long journey, but we're here. We're back.
Yeah, and for those of you guys who are like, "Oh, I got to hear this," with the podcast, we started on Diablo.inkgamers.com, which is no longer out there, but the YouTube channel is still there. So if you search it on YouTube, you should be able to find the old episodes, and you should be able to find the one from 2013, from 2012, in which Katniss is joining Flux. I believe we have an episode together at some point. There's a lot, like there were a lot of the early show episodes. Um, and now it's back in its new iteration, and we finally get to have you on. So thank you. Uh, in the meantime, what have you been up to?
Well, I work for a little company. I don't know if you know about it. It's called Blizzard Entertainment.
Oh, yeah, a small indie company, right?
Yeah, they make a couple of games. They're got some traction, not in the Steam store yet or anything like that, but we're making our way. We're
They'll
trying
get
to
there one
trying to
day.
break in.
Is there a Kickstarter that I need to help fund of some sort?
Yeah, if you just type in Leviathan at PayPal, I'm pretty sure that Kickstarter is always open and working. But in all seriousness, yeah, I had the absolute privilege to join Blizzard in the end of 2022, December 2020. No, sorry, December 2021. Time is a vortex in the world of the last couple of years. But yeah, it's been a year plus since I've been on the team, and I'm on the Diablo Immortal team as an associate game designer. Got recruited by Wyatt in a summer of discontent when I was working from home at my previous job. Nine knows I used to tell him all the time about all these different law firms I worked for and stuff. Like it was a gigantic transition career wise, like in the real world of what I was doing. But every night I was coming home to stream Diablo 3, which is where a decent amount of people might know me from. Talk on podcasts with Nine and like plan for the next BlizzCon with Dread and the group. And, those are my real outlets from the doldrums of like trying to figure out if I wanted to be a lawyer and keep up with this legal thing and all the terrible stuff that goes on in that profession. And so when I
Even when
got,
you're the even when you're the good guy.
yes, it doesn't matter what side of the table you're on. It just all sucks. So it was a dream come true when Wyatt reached out to me and was just like, "Hey, like I see that you've got a lot of tweets where you're not very happy with the current situation. How about this designer test? Just I hear you talk about the game a lot. He used to listen to like all the podcasts for Diablo. Probably still does too. Like the man just gobbles up community content. And so I was like,
Hi,
yeah, I can give
Wyatt.
it
Just let's
a.
we'll give him a shout out. Thanks for showing
For
up, bud. Um, you can find my email on Twitter. Okay. Anyways, continue.
real. Right on. And so, yeah, I sat with that test for so long. I actually went past the deadline of when they were asking me to return it because I was so nervous. I knew it was an important thing. I guess I should mention too that I tried to get into Blizzard previously a number of times through different applications, whether it was for stuff like Community Manager, which some of us have been able to break through that wall in the past.
I haven't told that story on this version of the podcast. Maybe some other day,
Oh,
because I'm not the star here, because my life isn't as exciting.
fair enough. Right. Well, there you go, guys. Spoiler content for the future. Um, some of us have had close brushes with going to Blizzard in the past, and so I was kind of like honestly inspired by that, and like Blake Waterfiend, who used to also write for Ink Gamers back in the day as well. He actually did take the job and became a community manager, and so we had like all these like close friends who were getting into Blizzard as kind of coming from the grassroots of the community and like hardcore, whether you spell it with the uppercase or lowercase h, players that just had this passion for the game. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, I love this community. I love this game, this franchise so much. I want to break in any ways. They had like paralegal positions. I was like, I'm qualified for that. I'll sign up. Uh, like Nine always makes a joke, like I'll sweep the floors. I was like, look, I don't see any janitor openings here quite yet.
They
But yeah,
they
so
they sadly they hire out a third party company to do that now.
no direct hires there, unfortunately.
Oh.
I'll let you know when the BlizzCon line security opens up, though. You're highly qualified.
I believe they are hiring actors for BlizzCon though. So Neinball, you're in.
Oh, I've already got my connections there. I'm good. I'm good.
Speaking of perpetual contracts.
I still have the same hoodie in the closet still.
Perfect.
It's an
But to make
expectation at this point.
to make a long story less long, basically I went through that process. I was super nervous when I finally did get like that opportunity to what felt like a real, because in the past you just like there's a website for the openings, you send in your resume and your cover letter, and you just never like hear anything really, right? It's such a competitive process and an arduous process, and Blizzard has been known to be glacial with just the hiring from when you actually hear from a HR person and actually get to interviews and such. And I was lucky enough to actually, once I took the test and sent that back in, to really, it felt fast track to me. I think I got the prompt in like August, and then interviews in September, and then I actually like took time myself just because I had been in legal for so long, wanted a break to just like breathe between opportunities. And I took that like November, most of November off, and then started that December. So that's a relatively quick, it sounds like a long time, but like for those who know the ins and outs of Blizzard hiring, that was relatively quick. So I was super excited to kind of get that inroad.
And here you are living the dream. I want to highlight, for anybody listening, you know, to make the transition from, podcast to streaming and then to being in the industry is a totally feasible road for everyone. Um, and if you are out there listening and you are thinking about it, do it. And if you heard Leviathan there, you tried and failed along the way, but persistence, and to keep going, because yeah, plenty of people have done it, and here you are getting to.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to point out technically, and if we're being honest, you're kind of right now in the exact same spot that you were 10 years ago here on this podcast, but what you're bringing into it is different. So I guess that's, if we're being technical, it's
Just
different,
slightly different.
but you're still here.
Uh,
So, and we thank you for being here because we got some stuff to talk about today.
of course. And I did want to follow up really quickly on kind of your galvanizing the troops out there of people. I know there are a lot of people who want to break into the games industry, and it's a tough one, especially I think like designer roles are relatively held in like high regard and desire. And I want to advocate for people, if you really enjoy gaming and you have the mindset to like engage with your games as you play them. So you're not just going through the motions like I log in, I do my dailies, I do whatever, and then I log out. If you're actually like thinking about the systems, you're like envisioning a world of change of like, oh, if they just did this or whatever, like you are actively working the muscles that designers use every day. Like it's basically the same stuff when we would talk about it on stream of like, man, like what if next season they decide to flip Paragon on its head and do this or that. Like we have those kinds of conversations behind the scenes when we're trying to figure out how to make the game better. And a lot of like the ideas are coming from just play experience and things. So when you are playing games, you're gaining experience. I know there are like schools and degrees that can obviously assist you in like learning a bit more before you set foot in a professional setting or whatever, but like you don't have to go down what might you might consider to be the typical road of game design or like entry into the games industry. Like you have a lot more going for you than you might realize, and that's conversations I've had with designers that have been in the game for 10 plus years. I had this like kind of imposter syndrome when I first started because I was like, I don't know what you all know, and they're like, but it's just experience. Like you've played games, you've thought about games, and you'll get more experience as you continue to like build games and improve games.
So you're saying my English degree is usable? I'm kidding. I'm an English teacher. I know it's
I'm an
usable.
English major. So there you
So,
go.
oh man, we got so much more in common now. We can talk about books because we can't talk about films. Um,
Hmm. As long as they're not lore books.
Killing me, Smalls, on
uh,
so many levels.
such a good point. That was a good one. I like that. Well, it's not gonna be lore, but like novels and stuff. Uh, no lore questions. See, I'm not gonna grill you about like Tyrael's wings or something.
I didn't say it.
It was a
Can't
logical
be can't be
transition.
mad can't be mad at me, Rush.
It is what it is. So if you are passionate, get out there and do something with it. And maybe you'll be on the podcast someday telling us all the cool stuff you get to do. Now, why are you here? Uh, we got a massive change in Diablo 3, and you cut your teeth in streaming Diablo 3, right? I played Diablo 3. Well, I played Diablo 3 with both of you, but we put in a lot of hardcore time back in the day. Uh, I can't do that anymore because despite you not streaming as often, you're still really good and really fast. Where I'm just like, I can't keep up. I can't. I'm getting too old. I can't. I can't keep up with your pace. So when I saw this patch, we've been trying to get you on for a long time. This felt like a great time for you to come in and enlighten us with all of your wisdom around Diablo 3 so that we can all be as good as you are.
First of all, thank you for the compliments. I try to keep up with my inspiration from day one, Udijo over there doing his thing forever and ever. Us demon hunters all have to stick together, and there are a lot of us. There are more than tens of us, like the druids. But
That's a
moving
sore
past.
spot.
Hey, I
I,
didn't say it.
I,
Can't get mad at me, Xanth. I didn't. It
I,
wasn't me.
it's a lot of not you today, but I want to point out, not only did I lose my favorite druid build in D2R, but here you are just like twisting the knife.
Mm,
Um, if you didn't catch that, go back to our last podcast, the death of the Shockwave Druid, courtesy of Macro Bio Boy.
the last episode you'll ever see him on.
He's never coming
Hilt.
back. He killed it with math, of all things. Uh,
Terrible.
so, we can never play D2R again. We have to go to Diablo 3, which also has a new season. Lots of excitement in Diablo, as you did kind of say before. It is the year of Diablo. There's a lot that's happening. I made mention of it, not that long ago. It's a great time to be a Diablo fan. All of your favorite versions are getting new things. And then there's a massive new game coming in June. This is great. And I think out of the two, and Macro and I talked about it just a little bit, out of the two new patches and new seasons, right? This is the one that seems the most exciting to me. I logged in to the D2 PTR, played a little bit, and then, kind of went about my day. But D3, unfortunately, it was just a timing issue because I was going away for a vacation. I didn't get a chance to play as often as I wanted, but it was very exciting when I was in there. And that makes me more excited for when the patch actually does come out. So we have a major system that's been added, something that completely changes the scope of the game with our new altar. And you did a little bit of a breakdown here. What can you tell me about this new altar?
Man, I'll take a little SNL joke. This altar has everything. Like it really does that, and that's kind of the crazy part. Is this is so genius of them to kind of throw in as a lot of people are labeling this as the last hurrah, right? Like we know D4 is coming. It's going to be a summer to remember. And you know, this we don't have the date yet for the next season, but people are reading the tea leaves and such, and it looks like you know the 3 months or so leading up to D4 are going to be a nice place where this D3 season will sit, right? And who knows how long it goes, but most people are going to see the end of this season corresponding with whenever you know they get their access to D4, whether you're in the early you know, day June 2nd start, or if you're actually on the 6/6. So your days are numbered, but like the excitement of time that you'll spend leading up to it is going to be insane in D3. And the altar touches every part of the game, even from
Mhm.
we were talking about some of those early nodes where you can reduce the level requirement of all gear to level 1. And so based on how you do your pathing, it's likely going to be your second node on the altar, and the big lockout from that is getting the diamonds for it. But most people have figured out at this point that once you're at level 18, that's when you can start getting access to gems dropping, and so you'll just do some bounty bosses at that level and get those diamonds, and that you know will automatically. So basically, by level 18, you'll be able to wear level 70 gear, and if you use your challenge rift cache, which allows you to level up Hadrig as soon as possible, then from level 18 you will have level 70 levels of power, and it'll make your leveling as smooth as possible. I know that like a lot of people spend a lot of time stressing over the 1 to 70, and I stress too, but for different reasons, because I start with the DH, usually solo self found, and they don't get their cheat death until like level 66, 67, and you're relying on the follower to hopefully be alive because they can't use their cheat death when they're dead. So it's this very like cat and mouse game of like, all right, I'm in like torment, you know, 2, 3. My follower is taking a dirt nap every 30 seconds. Is he going to be alive when I need him? When the you know is the Templar going to be there for me when I need him? But I tested out leveling at 18 with level 70 gear, and the biggest impact is the defense that you get out of the gear. Obviously, you're more strong because you have the level 70 weapon. Don't even need the level reduction roll on that anymore because you can just wear it. But the I went into T6 as a demon hunter doing the massacre bonuses on Temple of the Firstborn. Breezed through it. Like was killing at a great clip. Barely had to lower. I think I lowered it down to like T4 by the time I got to level 70. It's going to be the easiest start for everybody, whether you're softcore or hardcore. I'm so, and that's just like we just talked about the first 2 nodes, and this thing has like 26 of them plus the potion powers. It's insane. It's insanity.
I think, coming from, and playing hardcore, the 1 to 70 always sucked. It's just like I just want to get there. And that one node of just being like, yeah, you know what? Why don't we just drop it all? Like, we'll just get rid of the level requirements. You can start using sets right away. Like, that just felt great. Suddenly 1 to 70 wasn't as big of a deal because I had the stuff I wanted to be using. Everything was opening up, and granted, you don't have all of your skills immediately, but it just felt better. Um, like we're gonna take some of the rails off and let you go with it. I liked that, and then I would feel more inclined to play multiple characters to be like, okay, it's not gonna be so bad. I'm not
Oh
gonna
yeah.
have to worry for a rush. I've got the set. I'm ready to go. Let's just play for a bit, and that'll be fun. Um, I'm excited, and like I said, that's 2 nodes in.
Yep. And you did make a key point that if people don't know yet, this altar is account wide. So once you unlock, and you can unlock everything on the altar. I guess we just get like the base out of it. You can unlock everything on the altar. It's account wide, um, and the resource costs like of what they ask of you to unlock the nodes will go up in terms of what they're asking of you as you go through. But like you just mentioned, you can get all this power for your level 1, the next one that you make, right? Like you start out with the demon hunter, maybe you want to play the monk, and you have all this from level 1 now, so you can, I don't even like, there's so many impactful things, like tons of movement speed that'll get you through that leveling process faster, tons of actual just increased damage from multiple nodes on there. The potion powers, like there's just, they really just said, F it, we're going to give you everything you need. And I think another general point to make is that this also feels like a really smart theme to kind of go out with a bang with, because it touches every build, whether you benefit from it significantly or in small doses. Um, there's nothing, you're not excluded in, as like some seasonal themes have in the past, where like, oh, like this, extra slot in the cube gives me a little something for this build, majorly impacts this build and does nothing for this build, right? This is something where you are going to feel the impact of the altar no matter what build you're playing.
Yeah, I enjoyed the description of most of these being class agnostic, right? That
Mhm.
whatever your play, you're going to find something that's going to work for you. Now, it's not going to bring back your poison necro, though, is it, Neinball?
Sadly. But I mean, it also, like, it touches on things that people have been asking about for forever. Like pets picking up death's breaths. How many years have people been asking for that? And so it's yeah.
Isn't it kind of funny
It,
though?
it's
They prove they can do it. So
yeah.
that, like, was the technology there the whole
The
time
whole
and everyone was
time.
just crying like, please, please? And
Mhm.
they're like, okay, we'll show you that we could have given this to you at any point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it kind of had to have been there, ever since what was the ring where you had the puzzle ring with the treasure goblin that would go through and pick up stuff and then randomly drop a legendary out.
Oh, that's a good
There's
point. They
now,
probably just borrowed that technology, right? They just
I
turned that
I
on.
imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, now also the pets pick up and salvage everything for you too.
Yeah.
I would
There's
like
some
to
nice
think
quality life.
I would like to think that the pets picking up death's breaths took them a decade. I would it it was just really a solid team, and there's been so much complicated math behind the scenes, and they finally nailed it. They just nailed it there.
Mm.
Um,
Plus training the Murlocs, like, do you know how hard it is to get those to follow directions?
They just don't fall in line.
um, all right, we'll talk. I'll bring up. We'll talk about that one later. Anyways, all right. So we got two nodes here that are awesome, but there's a bunch more. What other nodes should I be thinking of? You know what? I got my items down to level 1. Where do I want to go next?
Yeah, so there are two major camps that have been developing within the community of use the Challenge Rift cache or don't use the Challenge Rift cache. I'm going to speak from a level of some understanding. I'm assuming, we're in upcoming season 28, so most players probably understand the seasonal start strats. But a very brief summary is that don't do the challenge rift next Monday. Wait for the season to start on Friday and then do the challenge rift, because you can get that cash on your seasonal character. And when you open that up, you get a ton of things that are instrumental to making your 1 through 70 a lot faster. That's where you'll get like the legendary bounty materials, the death's breaths to make early gambles. You can extract the power into your cube, like all sorts of interesting things that make that process go faster. Now, one of the fun things that the developers put into the altar is that there is a cost. I think it's around your 15th node that you unlock, where you have to sacrifice a challenge rift cache. And so the debate is, you'll probably hit that step if you're playing a lot in the opening weekend before the next reset of the challenge rift. So you're making a decision as to, do you want to progress your altar as far as you possibly can before that reset, or do you know that you're going to open the cache and then have sort of that soft wall that you get stuck at until Monday rolls around and you can go through the next challenge rift that's available to you? I'm in the camp that I think it's worth opening, because you can get most of the juiciest nodes before hitting that soft wall at upgrade 15. Um, myself and no one's minion, who's someone I actually met through my stream, and this is again another reason that I love the community, is like I have some of these lifelong friendships now. I met her at a BlizzCon. after we had been talking online for like years and partied up together and whatnot. But she's my like theorycraft buddy. We talk a lot of PoE, and she like teaches me that game. So like I like to pretend that when we come back to D3, I know a little bit of math and stuff, and I can return the favor. But she's still just really smart. And so we looked through all the different routes that we could take, and we sort of prioritized a lot of the things that will set you up for speed farming as soon as possible. So like I was mentioning, there is a movement speed node, 25% increased movement speed, and that's above cap. So usually the cap is 25%, and then you can get all these like bonuses like Warzekian Arm Guards and Boon of the Hoarder that give you movement speed above that cap. But this actually adds to that. So like once you max what the normal cap is, that 25%, you unlock this node, you'll be at 50% base movement speed all season. And so you're thinking like, how do I even like grok that in my head? Is that meaningful? But just imagine getting to places 25% faster for the entirety of the season. Those seconds add up to minutes to hours. And so in our min-max brains, we're like, you have to get that as soon as possible because it'll make your town time faster. It'll make your greater rifts faster. And it just all like snowball into helping you progress through the altar as fast as possible. There's the pools of reflection forever is a node as well. So like once you unlock that, you need one pool of reflection, and then you're set for the rest of the season. Like a lot of softcore players will understand if you die, you lose your pools of reflection. In hardcore, if you die, you also lose your pools of reflection. So we're on equal playing fields there. But this makes it so that you will just always be benefiting from additional experience. And so I think we're going to see some of the highest Paragon levels from the most casual of players to the most hardcore grinders that will go all season, just because you have this passive bonus of, 25% plus and the double dipping that occurs when you close greater rifts of getting gobs and gobs of experience.
It was actually funny. I was at a Magic pre-release tournament a week ago, and of course I'm there with my Diablo hoodie, my Diablo shirt, Diablo everything. And some guy that was just sitting across the table from me was just like, "Do you play Diablo?" Like, yeah, a little bit. And then we just went through. We got to talking and everything, and he was like really excited for this season. I just asked him, "Have you ever soloed a 150?" And he's like, "No." Well, you're going to. With all the changes that are coming with this.
Yeah, that's kind of like the tagline, I think, of the season is like, have you ever wanted to solo a 150? Well, I got something for you in my minivan here. Just like step on in. Like it's so much
free candy.
Yeah. Ooh, piece of candy. There's so many pieces of candy in this thing. And I don't want to necessarily be the guy that's like, we're gonna talk about every single node, but there are so many.
You haven't been on in damn near a decade. We're going to talk about every single node, and Rush can figure it out. Because if you got some
All right.
knowledge to drop, I cannot stress this for anybody listening. Having Leviathan on your friends list while you play this game is demoralizing. Just being like logging in, getting kind of pumped, and being like, he's in what? He's doing what?
Paragon
Already?
who? Yeah.
Like,
Tai's already in maps.
well, but like that's what it feels like. Um, so he's really good, and if you've got some knowledge and you want to break it down, we're gonna break it down, so everyone can have this experience of what it's like to have you on their friends list.
Full license to go then. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
just go for it.
So I wanted to I think there's going to be some consternation at the beginning and probably right now as people are trying to figure out like, well, like what will give me my best seasonal start. And one of the things that I talked about at the outset of like Minion and I having our conversation, it almost is attuned to your goals as well, right? Like, do you just want to play the first weekend and like see as much of the altar as you can and like get the power rush and then be done, or are you playing long term and like it doesn't have to be as expedient of an adventure through it because again you can unlock all these. I think I saw some early feedback of, oh, should we be able to actually get them all? Like, wouldn't it be more interesting if there was choice? Go left and then maybe you respec it and go on the right side. And I think that this road of like taking some of that complication out also takes away some of that decision paralysis that some players might experience early on, where they're just like, it's too confusing, I need a guide, and like the guide's like, well, at point A of your seasonal journey, do this. Once you've transitioned to unlocking primals, do that. Like now it's just select a few nodes and you're going to feel the influence of them, and just keep moving up that ladder or down that ladder of whichever orientation you're looking at your altar from. It's I guess what I was trying to get to from that is, no matter what decisions you make, you are improving your time in the season, and you're gaining something that's going to lead you to the next node. Like there are no technical bad decisions. There's just stuff you might enjoy more power from early to get your snowball rolling. But like you can go left, you can go right, you can go center, and then branch off, and you'll still be fine. I think one of the big points that people are making, and it's also worth noting too, to back up a little bit, we saw crazy things on the PTR, and we know that there will likely be changes. This is a 1 week PTR, which is different from the most recent ones where we've had 2 weeks, and we've actually seen like a patch iteration come in, where they'll have that first week, take feedback, and then throw in a set of changes, and then have sort of the same process, that iterative process rapidly occurring. We don't know what surprises are coming. The Nats set felt a lot like GOD. And so maybe that will undergo some significant changes, because a lot of players are kind of bulking at the playstyle being exactly the same. We noticed, and this is the point I was making, is the altar, one of those potion powers is not like the other. And it's the one that when you hit it, you get a free shrine or pylon. And it was very evident very quickly that we almost went back to season 1 again, where it's like, I'm fishing for conduit. I hope I hit that potion, I get a conduit again. And so that's broken, and apparently the conduit was working at like an excessive level of power than even a normal conduit pylon that you would find in a GR. So I think that'll get some kinks worked out. Who knows like what that power will actually look like. But sort of the general strategy is to rush for that, because no matter what they do to it, it still is the strongest potion power. You're gonna, get some shrines out of that, which could actually make for wild variations in builds, to where there might be some fishing where you're looking for an empowered shrine coming out of it, and that takes care of all your cooldown needs, right? So now you're rolling gear in this like super weird way, where in the past we're like, oh yeah, you need exactly like 37% CDR and the Dawn in the Cube to get that 100% vengeance uptime. Now those CDR rolls can be, free area damage rolls, or like more critical hit chance or damage rolls. And you're just depending on this shrine to take you through the Greater Rift. So I think it's just gonna make for so much interesting play, as much as you want to deviate from your norms. But even if you don't, even if you just like say, I'm a Shadow Impale gamer until I die, get all the nodes in the altar, and you will literally be clearing higher GRs than you've cleared in the past. There's tons of defense I want to say tree. There's tons of defense in the altar. There's like, again, insane amounts of actual damage and damage through different means. So going to be killing bosses faster, elites faster. It's just so good, man. There's going to be a high note to go out on.
You bring that up, like to go out on. We're obviously looking ahead to D4. We know that, I mean, Diablo 3 is not going to disappear. It's not going to disappear with this patch. It's going to still keep trucking along. Is there a small part of you that's a little sad that it's not going to be the mainstay, with given the amount of time that you've put in?
Definitely. I think when I hadn't put those two pieces of the puzzle next to each other yet, there was a singularity of, here's the big moment for D4 with Halsey coming out and Lilith and like all this, right? I'm just like, wow, we have finally it's on the open. The release date is June, and we know that is locked in now. And then to think that, D3 seasons are still occurring within this buildup of the hype for D4, and knowing that it's leading somewhere specific, it never occurred to me that like there is going to be a time where there will be overlap, and we're probably fully focused on just D4. I feel weird saying this. I will say, probably should have said this at the top, but I'm speaking solely for myself. Like, the things that I'm saying do not reflect the opinions of Blizzard itself, blah, 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 all that legal mumbo jumbo that I've now forgotten.
20 minutes in, it's fine. We're good.
Yeah, no big deal. That's fine. But something that I've said in like personal conversations with people is that if anyone is playing D3 after D4 is out, then like something is wrong with D4. Like and I know that sounds crazy to say. I want everyone to play all the Diablo games and love them all. But I just imagine because it feels like D3 is supposed to be this stepping stone that leads everyone into like literally story-wise, systems, like there are some systems that obviously have undergone major makeovers, but that we were even talking about at the outset of the show, how like the combat feels familiar yet different. Like it just feels like this graduation period. And I do wonder, in a world where there are going to be seasons continuing to roll, and who knows if they'll be to this level of like insanity and specificity and sort of bespoke creations. But like, is that going to be in our rotation? Like, will we be playing D4 and they announce like the same way that they used to in the past, like, hey, the D2 ladders we're setting. Are you going to go and check out the latest D3 season for a weekend or two more? Like, it could end up being that we go through all those rotations. Like, maybe the calendar is aware of, oh yeah, D4 just had a reset on their season. Give it a month. Next up is D2 our ladder reset. Give it a month or whatever, and then maybe you bounce back and forth. But it's to answer your question, yes, I'm so sad that like D3 won't just be the thing that I like wake up and sip my morning coffee and play. But it's for a good reason. Like it would be a good strong thing to take me away from that routine to develop a new one and a new exciting one.
As you're going through that, I was kind of like struck by a memory. And I haven't really thought about it in prior to asking the question, but like I have mental images of like playing D3, holding my kids like as babies. Um, and now Finn is gonna be 12, B is, 7, going on 17. And like that, like it's a part of my life at that moment too. And it's just kind of wild to think that's closing. And I am super excited for D4, but it's also like, man, it means I'm getting old. It means I'm getting old. Now, what I would love to see is obviously D3 keeps trucking, D2R keeps trucking. And like as D4 is the newest and shiniest thing, if there was like some way that like when playing the newest D2R season, D3 season, um, like maybe you just earn something for D4. Like I go in and clear a GR 100 in the new D3 season. Let's not even go 150 yet. And that's where my levels are. And you get a new die in D4, or you get some fancy version of Neinball. Do you want to say it?
Tyrael's wings.
Yeah.
There it is.
Some form of Tyrael's wings, or
Yeah.
anything else like that. That would be, I think, like a kind of cool way to like, hey, let's go back, let's play for a little bit. You can earn something in the current game. I would love that. I think that would be fun. They don't have to do that. No, nobody needs to write that note down, Wyatt. But if you're listening, you could. Uh, I'd be fine with it. I'm also fine with just doing a couple new things along the way.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to, what is the variations of experience, given that they obviously are going through and building a lot of the combat and systems off of like that, the kind of like that core basis that was created with D3, that those play experiences are going to be from what we've played like in the Renegade beta and such, that they are similar. I'm not going to say the same, but they're similar. And it's like, is there enough variation of going off, into what shape Diablo 4 might take, not just in June, but a year from that, 4 seasons down the line in an expansion and such? Will there still be merit and enough of a difference in how the games play to like go back and play Diablo 3? Because it's similar to like going back and playing Diablo 2 from Diablo 3, because they're very, very different games. They're very, very different play experiences. And that's actually, I could see myself, not that I can see myself, I'm going to continue to play like Diablo Immortal once Diablo 4 comes out, because it's a much different play experience. It's a different thing. It gives me something to do on my commute. I'm still going through having fun with the game. As opposed to I can't really see that same thing for Diablo 3 because it'd be taking up the same time while I'm sitting down in front of my computer, but also it's it's like the Diablo 4 at least has that new crispness, and the gameplay experiences are so close to one another. That you're kind of like going back to one. It's like I would go through and like replay a bunch of the God of Wars, but then when God of War 3 came out, I didn't never touched one or two ever again because 3 was just so much better than the other ones. It's like they're so close that it's like I'm just gonna play the best version.
Yeah, and that's sort of like jokingly mean when I say like you shouldn't be playing D3 if D4 is successful, because the games they are similar enough. But we were actually just talking about this at the outset or before we started recording, where Diablo 4's start point will be very far from whatever we might label as like D3's endpoint, right? It's not ending,
Hmm.
not going anywhere, but it's developed so much over the 12, 13 years of its existence that um there's so much of what has been built up to the game. We talked about the increase of the speed of combat, right? And the ability to
Hmm.
screen clear at, a flick of your wrist. That's probably not going to be the realistic world of D4. I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows how quickly that escalates, but that probably won't be the world of D4 because all these ARPGs, like we were saying previously, start usually kind of pared back. You're
Yeah.
still building your systems. You're still like you have these things that give you power, but usually the experience is sort of handcrafted to be exactly what it is for that initial release, right? And I'm actually really excited to see what a season looks like in D4 because it sounds like there are big plans for it to, like, for them to build major features and things that we can experience within that. And who knows if that will then kind of be what ramps sort of that combat visceralness up. But I can see like a power fantasy where a player is like, I'm enjoying this D4 like tactical combat, slower paced. But I kind of just want to relive that old feeling of like a multi-shot DH of pay and spray.
Base rolling, yeah.
Yeah. And that's sort of why I also mentioned seasons too, because there usually are that like that inroad of where you can kind of get back, everyone's on that equal footing. And even if you just do it for the weekend, it's kind of like a nice break from what your main game might be or whatever, right? And seasons are usually that nice reason to stop doing something that you're doing because it's a time and place where everyone is kind of like, oh yeah, let's focus on this for this moment.
Yeah, because I mean, I was actually on a similar note to that, going through and talking about like just how much Diablo 3 has developed, over these last 11 years. That it's so difficult to release, and there's like so much expectations on Diablo 4. But how can you come out with a game that can compete with something that's had 10 years worth of content? There's obviously like when the game itself launches, they're going to have developed it to perfection up into a point that they obviously have to call in order to ship it. But it's obvious there's going to be something that's lacking in like the grand scheme of things. So, oh, I could do this in Diablo 3, or Path of Exile does XYZ instead. But it's hopefully going to be like that strong starting point, because you'll never be able to come out with 10 years worth of content that all these other ones has, and it's like something that's made like ARPGs like really tricky because that is what your competition is. D4's competition is Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and like Path of Exile that have literally had decades worth of content developed for them that you're trying to compete with out the gate.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right on that. And all of those examples, like D2, Path of Exile, and D3, all started in very different spots than where they are now, right?
Yeah.
Because, Leviathan, like what you were talking about with time and iteration, it changes, and there's more depth and complexity that gets built into all of them. And the other part, but all of the communities is nobody's happy with them 100%. Like no communities, like there are Path of Exile people that are upset about changes. There's some that they already have their favorite leagues and it needs to just be that. D2R, like even with the new patch, some people don't want patches. They just want the classic and don't touch it. Or then the other side of it, destroy everything. We don't need these. Like, what? We shouldn't even have rune words. What? They were stupid. Don't get rid of them. Um, and then D3, a myriad of other things. We need to go back to old school Inferno. Nobody's happy about anything ever, and we're not going to please anybody. But maybe we just have some fun, and I think that's what's exciting is to let's get in on the ground floor of something again and see what it turns out to be by 2, 3 years. By the time one of my kids goes to college, what's that going to be like?
I have a quick callback to something that you had mentioned at the start of one of your points, which is sort of like this idea of honoring the past. Of you had these accomplishments in Diablo 3. I'm thinking about it a lot right now because I'm chasing down with the last days of the season the cosmic wings, hopefully, please, out of the holiday gifts. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I want these so badly, but then I might only really use them for like the next season. And
Yeah.
that's like, so in a weird way, I'm like, why am I trying so hard? But I know it's one of those things like I've actually said, hopefully no one calls me on it, but I said I will not play Diablo 4 until I have the cosmic wings. I think I said it on a stream like 5 years ago. But now I'm
Well, you said it again now,
yeah.
so
Yeah. Oof.
all right,
Man,
YouTube, Twitter, do your thing. Hold them to it.
Oh no.
our RNGesus needs to be good to you because that's a big sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
But you are onto something, and I guess the finality of it, and we are giving like this postmortem in some ways of Diablo 3 when it's really not because it's not
Yeah.
dying, um, and I think D3 has turned into this great game that you come back to frequently. It's easy to pick up and put back down, and I don't think that changes. I don't think that changes at all in the
Yep.
next
Yeah.
5, 6, 10 years. But the amount of times that you'll pick it up are going to dwindle, um, and that is interesting. I think of how excited I was to get like the collector's edition, right? To equip those wings, and you don't need a graphic for that one, Rush. But
Though they were Tyrael's wings.
they were Tyrion's wings.
Yeah.
But that was exciting. I remember that, a decade plus ago to have that and to like I won't look at those again. I'll be looking at the really cool Anarius ones that we're getting. And I'll be excited about that. But that digital handoff of like those digital accomplishments kind of coming to a close is wild to think about.
And there are different strategies there, right? Like, if we want to dive into it, Grinding Gear Games is doing a little bit. I think that's a big part of the choice of why PoE2 isn't like D4. D4 is going to be sort of its own standalone product that doesn't rely on you having had ever played D3 or had access to it. Whereas in PoE, you're carrying over the years of microtransactions, of skill effects and whatnot. Because can you imagine a world where you don't? Like I was talking to a
Yeah.
friend about this. I'm like, how do you like make that work for people that have supported the main reason you're buying them is because you want to support the indie development and you want to make sure the game keeps getting those updates. So you're buying the supporter packs, you're buying the MTX. For them to just be like, hey, we're making a new game for you, but you won't keep any of the things that you had in the past. It's just a wild concession. So I think that ends up being also part of your strategy of how do we keep the continuation going. Same thing where Neinball is talking about like the 10 plus years of stacked leagues on leagues and iteration of patches and whatnot. They get to keep that. So even though they're making, PoE2, which in this is not me being competitive, but if we're being realistic, it's just a big patch for PoE. I mean, there's a lot going into it. But like
Yeah.
before they were calling it 4.0, let's not forget. So there's some marketing voodoo going on there. And I think it's a smart move though, because you don't lose the content and you get to sort of transform into this new period for your game where they are like overhauling with a brand new campaign, like upped PBR rendering and like all the sort of the makings of what we consider now to be the modern ARPG, and taking it out of, you know, a lot of the criticism around PoE has been that like it's not a pretty game to look at and like some of the combat feels clunky, but they're looking to fix a lot of that with the next patch and such. So you know, I guess to rein it back into the Diablo side of things, it would be cool if there was some sort of like achievement or just something that like kind of scanned your D3 and saw that you did a bunch of stuff with your achievements over there and was just like, you know, D3 stalwart or like, you know, longtime supporter or whatever cool word you might throw in there, and it's an achievement in D4 or something.
It's going back quite some time now, but I do remember that was something that EverQuest 2 did. That if you had like an EverQuest 1 character, when that game like first came out and first launched, that there was like little like cosmetic perks that you would get because
I
you were the descendant of like your original character and
you,
such.
you got like a statue of your character for like your house, I think it
House,
was.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Because like EverQuest 2 did housing. Now EverQuest 2 was not a great game. Um,
Oh,
and it launched
but
like
slash
right.
pizza.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one.
Forgot to.
Um,
But it launched like shortly before World of Warcraft, and then got
yep.
completely dwarfed by it because of the
We all
accessibility.
know what happened there. I think EverQuest 2 like continued to be dwarfed by EverQuest is one of the
Mm.
problems.
And yeah, another
Uh,
one there too.
which
EverQuest 2 was
also is just
actually
like one
my
of those
first MMO,
which
and then
what was
and
it?
then I
I
went
have
to
to
WoW.
so my roommate played EverQuest, tried to get me. Technically EverQuest was my first MMO, but I played it for like 2 days and then I quit. But I played Final Fantasy 11 for a long time.
I
Uh
dabbled
and
in that.
then and then I went straight into WoW.
Mm. All right, we're dovetailing into MMOs. Uh, we got to keep it on.
Uh and I just want to go through and say for people, you know, for all those other types of things, EverQuest launched its 29th expansion uh in December.
Dang,
Well,
Yeah.
still going strong.
Still going, and they already have planned a 30th expansion for this coming December. They seem to be doing an annual December expansion for the original EverQuest. No idea about EverQuest 2. Final Fantasy 11 actually had like a content update, I think, like 5 years ago.
hmm.
It still has servers.
My personal favorite was City of Heroes, but that's
Good one. Yeah,
it wasn't
I played a
that
lot of
good, but
Star
it was
Trek.
good.
I played a lot of Star Trek Online. That their core game code was based on City of Heroes.
Okay.
Um, so I never played City of Heroes, but then I played like the ground combat from what my friends told me basically was City of Heroes.
Okay, so MMOs aside, we've got an exciting Diablo season on the horizon. We got multiple patches, and then of course we got Diablo 4. As we close out here, because I think we're getting there, which is sad. I just want to talk to you. I want to talk to both the guys all day. And I get to because I'll close the show. Then we'll just chat. But we brought this up pre-show. I'm gonna point out, some of the perks that we get that you don't. Uh, we talked about it on the last episode, but Diablo's Hell's Inc. is up and running. It'll be up and running shortly. If you have not gone and searched out how to go and do it, please do go to this event, get a free tattoo, get a free copy of Diablo, and get a free in game title that Leviathan cannot have. And that is
Oh.
Mother's Inked. Uh, because Leviathan, why can't you get a tattoo?
You know, there are these contract laws and sweepstakes laws and all sorts of fun stuff that you don't really realize is a thing until it's a thing. Um, it's so funny too, because I'll tell a little story here. I pester Pez Radar a lot. Cause I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, why is all the cool community stuff happen? Now I'm on this side. Like, why are they getting all this cool stuff? And he's like, oh, there's different budgets. Like, don't worry about it. You'll get cool stuff too. And he's right. Like, I've gotten some cool swag, and we were talking about it a little bit too. Like, there's always the company gift that most people end up seeing, usually from like a Twitter post or something when an employee shares it. And that stuff doesn't usually circulate too far out of the grip of an employee. So, but there are other perks that you guys will get tons and tons of opportunities for, like this cool tattoo situation where you can get like the flash tattoos or like a super duper very serious permanent one. It's Xanth was trying to make me feel bad that I couldn't get it, but then I was trying to tell him that like I'm so pure anyways. Like why I'm with the angels, bro. Like we ain't inking up. No, leave that to the Lilith advisors and observers and whatnot. I'm staying pure. Tyrael's wings.
That's the trifecta. We
I
nailed it.
can't,
Um,
I can't really argue on that one though. I do regret missing the one in Miami because I have thought about going through and like getting like just like get like something simple either like on the wrist of like the heraldic symbol or something like that, or on the shoulder or whatever, just something small, cool.
You should get one like right on your forehead, right? And
Oh
then
yeah.
people are like, "What is that?" And that just gives you license to open up on lore. Like, well, the Haradrim.
Well, it's just like one of those ones. Well, you see, I got this in a dungeon, someplace.
there is a rapper that did that with a massive diamond. So just a thought. You could get that. I believe it's called a microdermal piercing, but different, different. Uh, just think about it is all I'm saying. So you
Possessions
can't
sold
get that.
separately.
So you can't get that, which, is a bummer, but you do get to be involved in making games. Now, one last question as we close out here. And if you can't answer it, that's okay. After being pestered by Neinball for so long and berated for my druid love, am I going to be able to kill him in Diablo 4 again? Uh, I got some aggression to maybe work off, and can I kill Neinball in Diablo 4? Because otherwise,
I'll roll a hardcore character just so that way we can duke it out in one of the fields of hatred.
I was gonna say, you guys realize there's PvP in D4. Like you can put the pink slips on the line.
well, I mean, that's all well and good, and I'm down for that. But I need a monster with his name on it to just wallop on, every podcaster. So, I'm like, oh, you say that about druids, you're not so tough now, that that kind of thing.
Something for the thumbnails.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. I can kill him in Diablo 3. I can kill him in Diablo Immortal, right? So I'm just saying, I want to be able to kill him in Diablo 4 if that's a note you could pass along.
That is actionable feedback right there.
You're gonna have to hunt me down, IRL for this one, man.
No, I just want it in game. That's all. Just if we
You
can
did just
do that. And
I was just gonna say you did remind me of a quick story. I'm sorry.
no,
There was
please, it's great.
There was a PAX East one time where, because Blizzard doesn't always make their way out to PAX East, but on one occasion they did, and Brandy was out there as one of the community managers, and she was doing like a Kadala trivia thing, and I'm just thinking about like how people were literally like Brandy alert. It's like, oh, I saw her last time she was on like floor 2. Like we need to make sure we're there. The next time she tweets, like we just run up and try to get the trivia, because she was giving out like exclusive cool swag, which is how we started all this to begin with. And I'm just thinking of like that being the case, except for Neinball in Florida, where you actually have to like get on a plane, wade through the water, which we all know has crocodiles in it because Neinball reminds us every weekend.
Yeah.
And once you get past his traps and his environmental lures, like you might be able to answer his questions and get some cool swag.
So in Diablo 4, the Neinball character, surrounded by alligators. Uh, and I'd like to think
Swamp cats.
there's a group of druids that have him surrounded.
Corpses.
So it's like a class quest. It could be the druid class quest
Um,
to take care of this interloper in the marshes, surrounded by gators. Yeah, you know what? You let me know if there's any game design jobs out based on, and I'm going to submit that. I will submit that idea right there. Um, I think it's pretty good.
I sense the return of the modding community.
Just want to kill Nineball with a bunch of other druids. That's all. And then you
Fair.
could be
That's fair.
resurrected by a necromancer and go on to do necromancer things. I think that's fair.
We'll take it under consideration. Think about that
Okay.
one.
So we've covered a lot of ground, guys. We got a awesome new patch for D3. We got a little bit of a moratorium and a return. And I hope, obviously, not the last time you're going to be here. You're going to come back, right?
Oh, I'd love to. If there's more to discuss, a few Diablo beats this year, should be some things that we can lark about for an hour or two.
I want the second we get an opportunity to all play Diablo 4 because I know Nineball's played it. I know you have played it because, you're going to get access to it. So really, once I get a chance to play it, I want to be able to talk about it with both of you.
Well,
So let's set that up.
hopefully it's not the version of the game I played where you couldn't be a druid.
That would also be cruel. But you know what? At this point, I would settle for that. I would settle for playing a rogue for a little bit, just to try it. I never got to go to that BlizzCon. I didn't get in the closed beta. I I just want I just want taste. And I know June
I think
is rapidly approaching, but
I think technically when they showed off the rogue, none of us got to go to that BlizzCon.
That's true. We were all watching that one from home.
but now we're getting closer. All right, so we're running late. Any last thoughts, gentlemen?
Again, I'm super stoked for season 28. It's going to be a banger. It's going to be lit. I'm trying to make sure we get our Gen Z numbers up.
You should
Check your
throw in a
TikToks.
dab as well.
Check your TikToks for all the latest on how to get your altar right, fully checked out, decked out, kitted. But seriously, it's like I feel like the energy around this is sort of, to me, the beginning of that groundswell of what's to come for all of the Diablo games. I mean, we're already seeing a ton of hype around the D2R latter season that is about to pop up. Great episode with Macro. D3 is gonna knock it out of the park. Immortal, we're gonna have tons and tons more updates. Like everything's hitting on full cylinders until we get to this monumental moment of D4 actually being real in millions, hopefully, of players' hands. And I'm excited for like I haven't said this out loud yet, but I do want to say it here in that coming from that grassroots sort of like start from just talking about the game with a bunch of friends that I haven't ever met in real life. I'm excited for people to get that experience for the potentially the first time, right? Like we are at the beginning again of a new onset of communities building up. And there's going to be a lot of carryover from the other Diablo games and such, but I think the idea here is that all these different parts are going to coalesce to get to D4. And who knows, you can make your friends for the next 10 years you're going to play games with as we keep getting seasons and seasons of all the different Diablo offerings. I'm just really, I'm like so excited to see what the future looks like because I know it's going to be super bright. Like there are going to be new content creators, there's going to be new podcasts, but this one will still be the best. And like there's going to be so much just awesomeness to see, both for you guys on the community side, from us on the side of making these experiences for all of you. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Neinball?
I got nothing. Cheerios wings. There you go.
There,
One more time.
there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's close it out as we always do with a moo, moo, moo.
Moo.